Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all. Myself Vaibhav. In today's session of automated trading, we are going to continue working with our algorithm involving awesome oscillator, and I hope by now you are well familiar with its intricacies, its technical functionality, as this is the part 5. So we will not go into the details of this indicator. Of course, we are going to involve ATR and the min-max as well. Before we get started, this is the standard disclaimer, and again I would like to remind that this is simply a tutorial session and no claim is being made regarding the profitability or otherwise of the algorithms which we will be developing during this session. And suppose if any of you want to use any of the algorithm or any idea, I would suggest that you do extensive trial runs and also sufficient amount of time. The mock run should be also done on the demo account to get a clear-cut idea of the efficacy of the algorithm, and of course nothing in the webinar is to be constructed as an advice to trade or for any particular setup. Let's get started. Again, I would like to remind of the setup which we have been working with. This is basically a simple setup, but once we start to implement it in the Visual J Forex platform, we have to pay attention, close attention to the details, and then it of course gets complex as we have to involve a lot of indicators and the calculations. This is the 4 hourly setup. So here the basic idea has been that whenever the positive value for the awesome oscillator will be rising, we will be looking for a buy trade, and whenever the values are falling, we are looking for a sell trade. And when the positive values are falling, the algorithm won't do any trade, and similarly when the negative values are rising, the algorithm again will stop trading. And a similar requirement is there for the hourly charts as well. On the hourly also, we need negative values to be falling for a sell trade, and the positive value should be rising for the buy trade. Along with that, we have also put in use the ATR. ATR is going to be used on daily time frame. We are going to use the yesterday's ATR value. So for any given day, last day's ATR value will be useful. So here 145 pips is the yesterday's ATR, and accordingly our algorithm will be doing calculations to determine that particular day's trading range, and of course entry and exit point is also going to be determined using the algorithm ATR for the algorithm. And then on top of that, we are bringing in these 4 hours min max values which have been defined using the 48 time period of 5 minutes candle. So if you multiply 48 by 5 minutes, it turns out to 40 minutes, and that are 4 hours. So we will be utilizing the highest and the lowest value of the last 4 hours, and also we are going to use the historical candles. Whenever we are going to sell, we will be looking to make sure that the prior candle has closed in red, and whenever we are going to look for a buy trade, we will also want the prior candle, the last period candle of 1 hour, should have closed in green. And then we are going to calculate the values from the minimum levels. We are going to add 20% of the ATR, and then when the price action will be in that territory, our order will get executed when the price starts to rise about 20% of the ATR. And similarly for the sell trade will happen when the price starts to move away, fall lower than the 20% of the ATR from the maximum value, provided all other conditions are fulfilled. So let's take a look on the JForex platform. This is simply a standard instrument subscription for Euro USD here. Then the position amount has been defined for 0. The awesome oscillators 4 hours time frame, which will help us determine on the longer term, the medium term, if to go for a trade or not. Then similar requirement has been placed on the hourly time frame, the shift 1 and shift 2. So last candle and the candle prior to that will be checked for the requirement. Then this is the ATR value along with historical candle. As I said, we will be seeing the candle one period back, that is last candle on the hourly time frame, whether it has closed in green or red to determine the trade. Then again, these are hourly awesome indicator values, as we want to make sure that trading stops. So here on the chart I will explain that uh, only during the first 6 initial hours of the start of fall in negative values, the sale trade will happen. So it will stop after 6 hours have passed. So from 8 GMT to 14 GMT, the trading will happen, and after that, no further sale trade will be placed even if other conditions are fulfilled. And similarly, for the buy trade also, only during the first 6 hours of the trend reversal, the trading will happen, and no trade will take place after that time has passed. So for that, we have placed in these two awesome indicator blocks, and we have placed shift 6 and shift 7. Then this is the condition for the ATR, minimum ATR value, and the min max. Here time period is 48 hours, the candle period is 5 minutes. So we get last 4 hours data, the maximum and the minimum value, and we have used these shift 3 and shift 12. So we will be making sure that the current maxima or the minima value is equal to the value of 15 minutes back. And then again one more condition will be that for a buy trade, the current minima value should be equal to or greater than the 12 periods back. So suppose if new low has been made, then no buy trade will happen for 1 hour. And similarly for a sell trade, we will compare the maxima values, and if new maxima value has been touched in these hours, then no new trade will happen. This is also the ATR calculation. This is the minimum difference which we will require between the minimum and maxima to make sure that there is enough open volatility, there is enough of price momentum in our desired direction before we get involved in any trade. To make sure, we are going to calculate this, and this will be useful to make sure that only when the price starts to move beyond our entry point, the trading will happen. And these are the same 10 seconds candle for ask side, and on the upper side we have made this on the bid side. We will be utilizing the bid candles for the buy trade, and for sale we will be utilizing the ask values, and these are the entry points. We are not exactly the entry point, it will help us define the entry point. So we will be comparing this calculation, the result of the calculation, to this candle closing, and whenever the last candle of the 10 seconds will close above the BED, the buy trade will happen. So now let's start to build the buy side. First of all, we will need to bring in the multiple action block. Open at market. No, we don't need it just now. Okay, logical. So here it is, the logical instrument. And suppose if we need some further indicators or some calculations, we will do it as per the requirement. For now, things are looking good as they are, and I hope we will be building an excellent algorithm. Of course, the test runs will only determine that if our setup is profitable or not. But still, logically, we should be pretty sound, and we should try to make sure that our algorithm should be trading as per our designed setup, the logic. So now here we are, and first thing first, we will first check for the position amount has been checked, and after that we will check for the 4 hours candle. And since we are building the buy side, we want the positive value to be greater than the prior candle's positive value. So last candle will be compared to the candle prior to that, and we want it to be greater. So the first input is greater than the second input. Again, we want the current positive value to be greater than 0 also, so it will work both ways. Now we will need more blocks to fit in the similar conditions for the hourly chart, and here again greater, first input greater than the second input. Now let's go towards 1 hourly candles. And here also we want the positive value to be current last candle period's positive value to be higher than the prior candle. So we have taken in this condition, and here we want a clear cut trend, so we are not going to compare the value to the 0. Only when the candle 2 periods back has turned into a positive territory, and the next candle also we want the trading to happen. So here first input greater than second input, and now we compare these values to the shift 6 and shift 7, that is awesome oscillator's value 6 and 7 hours back. And here the requirement will be, I will first explain to you on the chart. When we are going to look for a buy trade, we want the price action to be in the bearish territory. That is, whenever we are going to look for a buy trade, we will want to make sure that either the positive value was falling or it was simply in a negative territory, and so the negative value was actually rising, so we go for that. But now I think we will need to keep this condition for the later time, because what happens, we will need to define 2 if blocks, and then I think at the end we will connect them. Just let us define for the time being, but we won't be able to connect them straight away. One is that positive value 6 hours back should have been less than the positive value 7 hours back, and another condition will be that negative value 6 hours back should have been greater than the negative value 7 hours back. But now if we use these conditions straight away, we can't, because we have to put them in or. Either this condition will be satisfied or this condition will be satisfied. At the same time, both the conditions can't be satisfied, so we have to disconnect this, and then when at the very end we will put in two blocks, and we will put in two different pending open blocks for the trading to happen. Now we bring in another if block and we drop the link here. Rest of the condition will remain same. We want positive 17 to be greater than the positive 19. So far so good. Okay, now let us take all these blocks of awesome oscillators values downwards as we have defined the requirement. And here connect this. Now we compare the candle closing. We will keep these two blocks for the on the side for the time being. Let us now check how the last hourly candle has closed. We want the selling pressure to be there. Sorry, if it is a buy trade, we want the buying momentum should be there. So we will look for the value of last hour's candle, and on the buy side we generally rely on the bid, so we look for the candle 23 is data, candle 24 is ask candle, auto created variables. Okay, and ours is the candle 23. Okay, here it is. Candle 23 is closed, should be above the candle open. Okay, so this condition has been defined, which will mean that some buying was there. Now we again bring in further if blocks. And here now we move on to the price action requirements. We want the min max values to determine our criterion of the volatility in price action. So we now take the difference between the maxima and the minima. This is maxima 34 and the minima 31. So I will show you what is maxima 34. Maxima 34 is the highest price of the last 4 hours. So here the current value, it is the current maximum value of last 4 hours. And then minima 31. Minima 31 is the current minimum value of last 4 hours, and we have taken this to compare the difference between maxima and minima to the defined ATR range. So this MMD, min max difference, and we have defined this EV, execution value. Let me check the FV's value. It is 30%, but let us be sure again. Variable, and it is FV. Yes, it is 30% of last day's ATR, and the last 4 hours candle, the min max difference should be higher than the 30% of the ATR range, and as I said, the candle close needs to be greater than the candle open for a buy trade. So this is where we are. Now we want the current minimum value to be equal to or greater than the minimum value 1 hour back. Of course, it will also be the minimum value for 4 hours ending last hour. So we again go back and we so here we will again use the bid values only, and shift 0 is minima 34. So we take the minima 34 value, and it should be above or equal to the minima 36, and we need one more a block to make sure. So here we have compared the current minimum value to the minimum value 1 hour back, and both these values are for last 4 hours, and we want it to be equal to or greater than. And one more condition is we are also going to make sure that immediately in last 15 hours there should not have been any sharp move, and to make sure that is not the case, we want to bring in minima 30 should be equal to minima 35. So here the necessary requirement will be that it should be equal, and now again we go back to bring in another E block and we connect it. So this is the setup so far. Let us connect all these. MMD should be greater than or equals to so here so far we have defined this condition and it is looking all fine. Now let us take this back to the setup again. So here we put it in the candle requirement that candle close should have been greater than the open. That will mean that underlying instrument found some buying momentum on the lower levels, so that will be the impact. So this is now again we are going to add further conditions. Okay, the minima and maxima difference has been defined. So what we have done so far, we have utilized the setup very efficiently. So let me again go back on the chart to make sure that necessary requirements have been fulfilled. So we are going to look for any sell trade just like the case here when the awesome values are falling and when the prior candles awesome values, these negative values were rising. So here the trading will happen after 9 GMT. So 9 GMT is here and we want to make sure that last hour's candle has ended up in red. So the trading will happen only after 11 GMT and till 14 GMT of that particular day, and then the algorithm will stop trading. So that is the idea. Now we are almost done. We will add these last two if blocks, and of course we are going to determine oh where are those if blocks. Okay, here it is. So these are our further if blocks, and now we will need to provide two different market at open blocks. We will not need this, so let us drop that, and we wanted the minima values to be equal. So here we are, and now when the positive values and here when we are going to look for a buy trade, we want the positive value either to be falling or the negative values to be rising. So we connect the if blocks here to be equal, but since we have to utilize the multiple action block also, because only one flow is available for us, and then we need to divide it. So here it is, the multiple block. We put it in here, and we use this block somewhere here. And this is the requirement for us. Now let's bring in the market open blocks. For the day, we are going to simply use the market open. We will need two of these. And one condition now, which we will need to be added before we can connect the market open blocks, will be that last we want to check for last two candles of 10 seconds. So we bring in the logical two if blocks which we will need, and we will need to make sure that it is happening on the four. We'll need four blocks to check for this condition. We will check for the candle 2 periods back, and then the last candle will be checked. And also apart from that, we will need to do the similar calculation, similar checking for the other side as well. So now let us add the comparison. So here it is. We are going to rely on bid data for the buy side. So we go to the bid side, and here the shift 1 is candle 41 and the shift 2, that is 2 periods back, is candle 40, and we compare these candles close, users variable and auto created variable. We will need the candle 41's close to be higher than the buy execution price, which we have defined using the calculation expression and the ATR. So we take this candle close and also the candle close of shift 2, and we now compare this value to the by execution difference. Let us check for that. So this is it. Here we have multiplied the ATR. Line 21 is ATR for yesterday by 20 0.2. That is, let me show you the variables value. Users variable, and the AED has been defined at 0.2, 20% of the ATR. This result will be the 20% of the ATR, and then we are going to add this to the minimum value, and we will get the by execution difference, and then we will compare the two candles close. And what we will need is that we want to make sure that the buy trade happens when the price to candle period back of the 10 seconds was less than the BED, and then after 10 seconds when the next candle close, it rose above the execution difference, means the price is rising. So that is the logic behind it. So the candle close, let me connect it here only, otherwise we might forget. So here the candle 41 is the last candle, so we want the last candle's close to be above the BED, and the candle prior to that, it should have been below. The candle for this close should have been below the execution difference. So we take this and connect it to the market at open. So here our buy trading setup is almost getting completed, but I don't think today we will be able to finish it, as we have to define the other parameters as well. And this is it. Now we bring in the buy condition, open at market. So here is the setup, and we needed the negative values to be rising oh sorry yes, it is right, negative values were supposed to be rising, and then the candle close should be greater than the execution difference. So here, and we will define now rest of the things. This optimal stop loss and take profit in tomorrow's session, as we are running short on time in today's session. So this is it. This is all from my side for today's session, and this is Friday, and we will be back on the Monday for the further development. Thank you all for joining in. Have an excellent time ahead. See you on Monday. Goodbye.